In the heart of Cebu City, tucked behind narrow alleyways and rusted tin rooftops, lived a young man named Elvino, Elvis, Ramiro, a street singer whose life was shaped by poverty, perseverance, and an unshakable dream. His family's small wooden home, held together by nails older than him, stood beside an ancient cemon Cowell, a deep stone circle that had supplied water to generations of poor families in the barangay. Every morning before sunrise, Elvino would pull up the creaking rope, feeling the rough fibers burn against his palms as he filled small plastic buckets with the cold well water. That well was a symbol of everything they lacked: running water, stability, comfort. Yet, it was also the place where he first learned to sing. As a child, he used to echo his young voice into its hollow pit, listening to the sound bounce back to him like an audience applauding from the dark. Growing up with almost nothing, Elvino learned to be grateful for everything. His slippers were always worn down until the soles were paper thin. His shirts were hand-me-downs patched with mismatched cloth by his mother, who stitched them late at night under the dim light of a single bulb. Music was the one thing that made him feel rich. The whole neighborhood called him Elvis of Cebu, half joking, half admiring. They said his voice carried a magic that didn't belong to the streets. When he sang at night beside the cemon Cowell, even the stray dogs quieted, listening as if the boy's voice could soften hunger and silence problems. His father used to tell him, "Anik, the world is big, but your voice is bigger. Don't let this place trap your dreams." Still, dreams are expensive when every day is a fight to survive. Elvino sang for jeepney passengers, tricycle drivers, and fishermen along the pier, hoping for loose coins that could buy rice or help pay the electricity bill. Many days he earned barely enough for food, but every peso mattered. Sometimes he even skipped meals so his younger siblings could eat. Whenever life became too heavy, he would sit beside the old Cowell, dipping his hands into the cold water and praying silently that one day everything would change. One night, after a long day of singing in crowded streets and smoky karaoke bars, Elvino walked home exhausted but determined. As he passed by a small sari-sari store, an old television flickered with an episode of America's Got Talent, a show he had admired since childhood. He stood outside the store, captivated, watching Cemon Cowell react to an incredible singer. Something inside him sparked. A fire. A calling. A reminder that legends were not born in perfect places. They were born from struggle. That night, standing in front of the glowing TV and smelling the familiar scent of the Cowell nearby, Elvino made a decision that would change his life. He would leave Cebu, no matter how impossible it seemed, and chase the dream that had lived in his heart since he was a boy, echoing his voice into the darkness. When Elvino finally stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage, it felt like he had walked into an entirely different world, one far away from the cramped alleys and uneven pavements of Cebu City. The bright studio lights hit him so hard he had to blink several times just to adjust. Back home, the only lights he knew were the flickering bulbs in their small house, and the soft morning glow that reflected on the cemon Cowell. Now, thousands of eyes were on him. The stage was massive, polished, perfect, nothing like the rough concrete where he usually stood to sing for jeepney passengers. His heart raced as he gripped the microphone, its metal surface cold against his trembling hands. Cemon Cowell stared at him with that famous, sharp-eyed expression, part curiosity, part doubt, part silent challenge. The audience whispered among themselves, and Elvino could hear fragments of their comments. "He looks nervous. He's so young. Where is he from?" He knew what they saw. A thin, poor Filipino boy wearing a thrift store jacket that didn't quite fit, shoes that had been polished so many times you could almost see the old scratches beneath the shine, and hair combed neatly with the same well water he used since childhood. But what they couldn't see was the storm of determination building inside him. He drew in a shaky breath and closed his eyes. In that moment, his mind returned, just for a split second, to Cebu. He imagined the sound of the bucket dropping into the Cowell, the splash echoing in the narrow backyard. He pictured his mother rinsing clothes by the well, his siblings chasing each other barefoot, his father sitting on a wooden stool listening to him sing. Those memories grounded him. They reminded him why he was here. This is for them, he thought. This is for every night I stood beside that old well wishing for something bigger. When the music finally started, something shifted inside him. The fear melted away. His breathing steadied. His posture straightened. And then he opened his mouth. The first note hit the room like a lightning strike. The crowd froze. The judges blinked in disbelief. It was as if an invisible wave swept across the stage, carrying with it a voice that sounded impossibly rich, deep, and haunting, echoing the soul of Elvis Presley himself. The audience leaned forward instinctively, their expressions transforming from curiosity to astonishment. Simon Cowell's eyebrows shot upward, his face tightening with genuine shock. He whispered something to the judge beside him, unable to look away from the boy who was delivering a sound so powerful it felt unreal. By the time Elvino hit the second verse, the entire theater had fallen into a respectful silence. The nervous boy from Cebu had vanished. In his place stood a performer who commanded the room with pure emotion, raw authenticity, and a voice shaped by years of struggle, echoes from a Cowell, and dreams bigger than poverty. Elvino wasn't just singing. He was fighting to be seen, heard, and believed. When Elvino delivered his final note, the sound hung in the air like a slow-moving wave, rolling over the audience and sinking deep into the walls of the theater. For a full second, the room stayed completely still. No movement, no voices, no clapping, just stunned silence. Then suddenly, the entire crowd erupted with a roaring applause so loud it seemed to shake the floor beneath his feet. People stood up instantly, shouting, cheering, some even wiping tears from their eyes. Elvino blinked rapidly, overwhelmed. As the reality settled over him, he had done it. A poor boy from a struggling corner of Cebu City had just stopped America in its tracks. On the judges' panel, Simon Cowell slowly rose to his feet. His eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open, and his expression carried something Elvino never expected to see on Simon's face: pure astonishment. He pointed at Elvino with a look that said, "I can't believe what I just heard." Simon took a long breath before speaking, almost as if he needed a moment to take in what had just happened. "That," Simon finally said, his voice steady but emotional, "is the most unbelievable Elvis-style comeback performance I have seen in my entire career." The audience screamed even louder. Elvino felt his knees weaken, and he tightened his grip on the microphone, trying not to collapse under the wave of emotion. He thought of Cebu, of the cemon Cowell behind their home, where he used to practice his singing late at night while the echoes danced back to him. He remembered the nights his stomach growled because he gave his food to his younger siblings. He remembered wishing, praying, begging for a chance like this. And then it happened. Cemon leaned forward and slammed the golden buzzer. The sound of that buzzer blasted through the theater like thunder, followed by a blinding explosion of golden confetti raining from the ceiling. The gold pieces sparkled in the stage lights, swirling around Elvino like a storm of blessings. He dropped to his knees, crying openly, his tears mixing with the confetti that gathered on his clothes. Everything he had carried inside, every sacrifice, every fear, every night spent singing beside the Cowell, came pouring out of him. The judges rushed toward the stage. Sofia Vergara hugged him tightly. Heidi Klum held his hands, telling him he was a miracle voice. Howie Mandel shook his shoulders, saying, "This is your moment. This is your destiny." But the person Elvino kept looking for was Cemon. And when Cemon finally stepped onto the stage, the two locked eyes, one a global television icon, the other a poor boy who once believed dreams were too expensive for someone like him. Cemon placed a hand on Elvino's shoulder and said softly, "You didn't just shock us, you reminded us why this show exists." For the first time in his life, Elvino felt truly seen, not as a poor kid from Cebu, not as the boy who used water from a cow well, but as an artist worthy of the world stage.